Hey guys, how you going? VaulSC here. We're going to take a look at a game of infiNity today between Morats and Haqqislam. Now, just about the timing, today's the 28th of November, 2018 in my country, and we're just about to, get some new spoilers from this third offensive book. You might be watching this video many days after I post this, and it'll be old news by then. But the game that I'm about to report on is a game that was played before a lot of the unit profiles or anything, or the sectorial things came out for the new book. Thing is, there were some spoilers, so we do know that certain teams are going to be changed in the sectorials, for example, in Morats and military orders. And the reason I'm saying this is that my army list for this game will be trying out one of the, changes that we're expecting to see in the Morat sectorial, and that is that the Suryat heavy infantry model can join a Vanguard link, which is a huge buff. And when I eventually do a video about the new book, I'll talk about that in depth. But there is that. Also heard today that maybe Bit and Kiss won't be included in Morats in future. This army list will actually include Bit and Kiss, so it's not really going to be a straight up representation of what the new Morats will look like, but it's not going to affect the game a lot, right? So, what are we playing here? Just going to get my face into the corner. So, I am running a Vanguard Link team, which has Tariq Anyat. She's just great, golden with the K1 combo rifle, smoke grenades, EM grenade, chain colt. What more could you ask for? Even the climbing plus. But the other three Morats, just what you expect to see: HMG, Fort Observer, a hacker. There's also a lieutenant as well, who will not be part of the Link team, but he can substitute in for one of the members if somebody dies. But the idea is that the Suryat heavy rocket launcher is in there, and really it's a toss-up between including the heavy rocket launcher or the HMG. The thing about including the HMG is that you get that full force of the 5-man Link team backing him up, so he's Bliss skill 16, 5 dice, that kind of thing, since 6 since level 2. And he's just amazing for clearing things out. But most of the things in the game that, can be destroyed by a model like that can also be destroyed by just the basic Vanguard, Morat, and HMG in the Link team anyway. But when it comes to AROs, there's a huge difference between having like a heavy infantry model with armor 4 compared to just like one missile launcher Morat who can die quite easily. He's got armor 4, he can tank more, better ballistic skill, and it's easy to revive him. So you'd want to choose the model that's better at AROs when it comes to choosing the heavy infantry model to add to your team, and that's why I go for the heavy rocket launcher. Plus, some of his templates are really good. In the active turn, you've got 3 dice, which is not as good as 5, but still pretty powerful. And if you're going to be coming and hitting somebody on 16s or 19s, then that's pretty devastating either way. So what do we else? We've got a couple of Icadrons, R-drone, Q-drone, pretty standard. Bit and Kiss, who may or may not be part of the tutorial after this video is posted. Medtech, Dr. Worm Slave Drone, Crackot with single SMG, and the Osnats link, so plus a Datcharats, I should say. Now, the weird thing about this army list is that not everybody can have the fire team core bonus active at a time, so you'll start the game most of the time with the Osnat and the Hungaries as a Link team, and move out with them, and then turn the Link team over to the Morats by spending a command token. If you are going second, might actually be better to start with the Link team on the Suryat so that he can benefit from that and provide some arrows. But going first, you can easily send out the Osnat and team as an expendable throwaway harassment unit or group, and then switch it back to the Vanguards. So that's how I view it. It's a bit of a precarious sort of playstyle to have, and it's quite difficult, but we'll actually see it in practice in this game. So yeah, there is that, but I wouldn't wholly recommend taking 2 Fireteam Core links in your army list. Just one other comment though, there's nothing wrong with just playing an Osnat and having 4 Hungaries running across the battlefield with, impetuous and free range. It's just a different style, but that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, most tables have enough terrain that you can actually take advantage of their movement and climbing plus and general ability with that. The opponent for this game is going to be playing Haqqislam. This is one of the better Haqqislam lists that it's possible to make, period, at the moment. Let's go through why that is. So Tariq Mansouri, he's overpowered because of Fatality level 2. Enough said. Al-Jabal, probably better than the FIDE in a lot of cases, just because the FIDE can really whiff the close combat attack. They might survive a round of it, and the FIDE dies to something else like a chain rifle or mine. Al-Jabal, the thing is, when he goes in for that close combat kill, the viral close combat weapon allows him to do so much more damage. And he's actually a lot better in close combat, so much more likely of killing things, MA4 and so on. The Bareed Killer Hacker with Lightning, very strong, 16 points for that, it's amazing. Flash Pulse Bot and Baggage Bot, really good cheerleaders. 2 Nafatuns, obviously one's a lieutenant, the other one's a decoy. Jambazan HMG, very standard, able to make use of all the smoke this list generates. 2 very basic Ghulams. He's trying out the E-Mauler light shotgun profile, which I don't see very often, but hey, it's fine. And the Ghulam sniper rifle, which is quite a cheap and annoying ARO piece. Then you got the stock standard Hunzakut grenade launcher, all the Mutaiwas mandatory, and the 3 Daylamis with light shotgun Panzerfaust. Very scary, because if even one of them passes the fizz check to deploy next to deployment zone, that 8-point model just trades so well into a lot of other things that can't really withstand the light shotgun. And then the guys that don't pass the fizz check are going to be dotted around the edges of the table with Panzerfaust, and you're going to have to spend orders killing them. That makes them really annoying. He's also trying out the brand new Hakim Drop Trooper. I feel like this guy's a bit expensive, but he is whip 15, he is a specialist, he does come with a submachine gun, so there's stuff you can do with him, and the Nazmat, if it's being dropped into the table, quite useful for clearing up mines and crazy koalas and the like. Okay, so we are going to be playing a game of Finish Line, and Finish Line is a custom mission invented by me. You may have seen it on my YouTube channel in the past. If you haven't tried it out, please click on the link in the video description and have a read of what the scenario is all about. It's a really cool scenario, and I'd love it if you guys tried playtesting it with me. Just to give it a bit of a talk about how it works. So my opponent, Haqqislam player, has rolled the dice, won the lieutenant to roll off, and chosen the table side that he wanted. I found that unusual because his Haqqislam list is so good at going first. It's probably would have been a better choice for him to take first turn, but it is what it is. So we've got Morats on this side, and Haqqislam going to be deployed down here. Now with my custom mission Finish Line, it's got the same objectives as acquisition. So there's a little objective in the middle, and there's a couple of panoplies on either side. Actually, this is not the same as acquisition. It's one of the other scenarios, but it is copied from another scenario in terms of the layout. So you get a bonus point if you have picked up more stuff from the panoplies than your opponent by the end of the game. You get 2 points if you have a model in contact with the middle console by the end of the game. You get 1 point for killing the enemy designated target. So the HVT that you see on the table won't be an actual HVT, it'll be a designated target, it'll shoot back, you've got to kill that for another point. So that's 4 points up for grabs so far. You get another 2 points for killing more army kills than your opponent. So just more points destroyed than you took. That's another 2 points, we're now up to 6. Now, the last few points really relate to the namesake of the scenario, Finish Line, and that is that you have a data tracker that must start in your deployment zone somewhere. And if you simply spend enough orders just to move it into your opponent's deployment zone, you get 2 points. In fact, if you move it to the back baseline of their deployment zone back here, you get a 3rd point. However, by doing that, you're sending your data tracker out there, your data tracker is probably going to die when it's their turn, and you will actually miss out on the final 10th point in the scenario, because there's a point up for grabs if your data tracker lives. So the really cool thing about a scenario like this is that it gives you a range of different ways to accumulate objective points. You can assess that in your game plan, in your army list design, and halfway through the game as to how it's going, where you should spend your orders. The bulk of the points come from getting the data tracker into your enemy's deployment zone, but you also give up a point if you don't keep that data tracker alive. Going first is a bit better, because then you have a chance of getting your data tracker in there before it dies, and then you can maybe assassinate your opponent's data tracker. But the thing is, that's balanced out by the fact that it's easier to win the game, win those points back by taking the console at the end, which is favored for second turn. So I feel like it's quite a balanced scenario. It encourages a variety of different kinds of lists and factions and different ways of playing infiNity. So give it a go, guys. Really would recommend it. So looking at my deployment zone, here's how everything pans out. This is extreme left-hand flank. We've got the HVT right here. This Crackot Renegade has picked up +1 armor and bioimmunity. Got an Echidron holding on the left flank over here as well. And the main link team is going to be focused towards the middle, so we'll go and take a look at them next. So here they are. We've got the Suryat at the top of the tower, prone. We've got the HMG ready to move up here and use this cover to cover that side of the table. There's Tariq Anyat there. This is the Fort Observer Morat there. That's the Hacker Vanguard there. So this group of 5 is it. Note that the Lieutenant is right nearby to them to be moved to Group 1 and added to the team if needs be. Datcharats are going to be moving through here and possibly placing smoke there. I am worried that he might have a Tariq sniper. I don't know at this point. Flashball spot right at the back. Closer zoom in on the link team. I've slowly been painting bits and pieces here and there, but they've still got a few details to go. On the right-hand side of the table, nearby to the link team, we have the R-drone, but here is the link team itself. Got to be very careful with this, because if one of the Gakis blows up, it might blow up models nearby. And the problem is that if you move a Gaki through this point, and your opponent is able to snipe you at a different point in your movement, the explosion will actually, I believe, take place there. Actually, hang on a sec. Maybe that's not correct. I think the last time I read the explosion rules, it says that you put it down at the end of the movement, so it probably blows up there. So if you do get sniped partway through, I better check that. I believe you can just move the Gaki somewhere that it won't affect the rest of the troops, but actually, even if you do put it further out there, if the other models cross the location of that at any point in their movement, they will get clipped by it, so you've got to be wary of that. Also, up against Haqqislam, their snipers are not multi-snipers, they are regular snipers, and they just do shock damage outright. And I don't know if you're allowed to deliberately forego the shock, like if you don't want the shock to kick in. One example of when you wouldn't want to use shock is right here, where you want the Gaki to explode by going into unconscious rather than being removed. So there is that actual additional feature. Extreme right-hand side of the table, we've got another Echidron over here, Bit and Kiss over here, possibly soon to be removed from the sectorial. We'll see what happens. So the Osnat's in the middle next to Dr. Worm, and we've got a Predator next to him. The Predator's the one standing up on its hind legs. Then you've got 3 Gakis, spread out to avoid any unnecessary explosions. Okay, so Haqqislam opponent having failed all 3 of the Dale Army rolls, which is good because I didn't really want a Dale Army showing up right next to my link team and hitting me with a shotgun as soon as I moved out. So here's one on the extreme flank here. This one's a flashball spot here. We've got a Ghazi Montiwa there. This is the Ghulam with Morat and a repeater. Another Ghazi Montiwa here, the 3rd Ghazi Montiwa there, Tariq Mansuri at the back, Sniper just covering off this side of his deployment zone just in case I'm moving into his finish line area for the scenario. A Pano Bulleteer representing a baggage spot, so that is not actually a Bulleteer, guys. Through the middle, we just talked about this, so there's Tariq there, you saw the Bulleteer, sorry, baggage bot there. Move my head over to this side, you can see another Ghazi, so 1, 2, 3, 4 Ghazis, that's the location of them, and this chap over here is his designated target, and then of course the Bareed in there. Oh, I almost forgot to point out that there is a Hunzakut on the roof up here because it can infiltrate. There is no exclusion zone or anything in this scenario. So there's a better look at it. Hunzakut hanging out there on top, prone. And this is a Aljabel impersonator hanging out a bit closer to my lines. Note that he can actually go across this bridge and get to the location where the Suryat and the Morat Vanguard link team is going to be. Okay. And there's going to be a Jambazan behind this building here eventually too. So my reserve trooper is a Q-drone, and then we're ready to get started. So impetuous move with the Datcharats moving out, throwing the smoke grenade down. I'm planning on making a really big push here with the Osnat and Hungary, so I don't really want a sniper appearing out ahead deployment from that angle, so we're just going to block that off. Then I can start moving them. So we've got the Q drone in Group 1. There's going to be 10 orders in Group 1, 9 regular orders in Group 2. Very big Morat list. He's chosen to strip Group 1's orders away, so I'm going to spend some orders here on the Q drone first, just to move out and around and pick up a couple of kills, just to soften up the snipers and possibilities that my Osnat's going to have to avoid. I don't really want the Osnat moving into range of a Panzerfaust, Daylami to go and try and shoot him, and then have to contend with a Tariq at the same time, right? So this guy moves out over here. He is going to come into line of sight of the baggage bot right at the back here, and is going to be able to destroy that. So that's one enemy down so far. And then moving across to deal with the Ghulam sniper. Ghulam's going to be hitting on 11 because it's +3 range, -3 mimetism, no cover in this case. Whereas the Q drone's going to be hitting on 14s. But sadly, the Ghulam actually wins the face-to-face roll embarrassingly, and the Q drone is killed. So, very unlucky start to the game there. I did kill a baggage bot, but I didn't kill any of these Daylamis. So that's irritating. Now, cautiously moving out, I've got one Gaki carefully coming around the side, another one coming up the back, and the other one going up through the front. You know, if he does spring some sort of Tariq or something, I might be able to dodge or throw smoke grenades or, who knows. Anyway, luckily he doesn't have a Tariq this game, so we didn't have to worry about it. The Osnat is the data tracker, and Tariq is the data tracker on the other side. So we're trying to get those two models to survive and to get into our opponent's deployment zones. But this is why I'm going first. I want the Osnat to be able to do that. So plopping down some more smoke in here, just so I can get everybody in there. Once the Gakis are hanging out in the smoke, there's nothing that can really shoot at them as the Osnat's doing her thing. So that makes this situation much less scary. So here she comes, moving through here. Again, not wanting to deal with the Ghulam sniper, so we're going to be putting in some smoke grenades here and here, for the purposes of getting to the deployment zone. But the Osnat is going to have to be coming up next to this obstacle here to fire at the Daylami. So if the Daylami crits her, then this game's going to be a lot harder. So there are the locations of the smoke, as you can see. And then she does move into this location here, able to fire across this little blue crate area and eliminate our Daylami friend. Enough combi rifle shots with the backing of the Link team to get that done successfully. Next up, what she's wanting to do now is move through into the enemy deployment zone to pick up the 2 objective points for free. Unfortunately, there's a jammer there. Now, the Osnat doesn't care about the jammer because she's a Morat, she's immune to isolation, but the Hungries, if they get isolated, it's just going to slow them down a little bit. Now, moving the Preta and one of the Gakis in here because I want to kill his designated target while I'm in this location on the board. The other 2 Gakis are going to hang back and no longer be part of the Link team. They're just going to be there for an extra wave of aliens, right? So the Osnat's moving in safely. The 2 Hungries moving in to actually attack the designated target. The Preta going in first. The Preta does get jammed successfully by the Ghazi, but does kill the designated target. So that is an additional point. So I'm up 3 points already, and Osnat just hanging out around here. So Ghazi, Gaki and Preta going in on him, having a bit of a munch. Okay, so we can now move the Osnat in to fire at the other Daylami, successfully doing that just as she pokes out of the smoke grenade, sorry. Then after that, with a 6-inch move coming around to here, the Gazimutir was facing the wrong way, so can only change facing, which it fails. And this is going to allow me to come through and shoot at the HMG here, the Jambazan is what I'm trying to say. Now, another mistake made here during this game. Although the Osnat does get into a position to attack him, and unsuccessfully, not able to crack him with the pistol, or the combi that is, what I could have done is I could have actually used my 6-inch move just to sacrifice the Osnat to move to his table edge and pick up a further objective point, which would have had a bigger effect on the game. Unfortunately, I didn't want to do that move because I wanted to keep my Osnat alive, but sadly, the Osnat's just in a position where it's probably going to die anyway, so it would have been better for me to pick up that free point while I had it available to me. Back to Group 1's orders, since Group 2's orders are spent. The Suryat moving on top of the building, along with the HMG. I don't really mind that if he just picks on the HMG by himself. I want enough firepower to kill the Ghazis as they come out of cover. I don't really mind if he spends his whole turn shooting Tariq into these guys and killing them, because at this point it's just a matter of, holding them off. I don't want him making a break for my deployment zone, and I want another turn or two to try and deal with Tariq before he reaches my side, and that will prevent him from getting a lot of points. Having the Suryat in the top of the tower as well also means that his impersonator can't really move across the walkway as easily. So here's the position where they're ending up. Everybody's prone except for the HMG. You know, there's a marker there, but we'll remove that. And the Suryat on top of the building. So yeah, here's a much better you know, reflection of where they actually are situated and standing. I was going to put the lieutenant into suppression fire, then I realized, hang on a sec, I could use his lieutenant's order and the last order in group 1 to run away and move to the back of this truck here. So even though Morats don't care about lost lieutenant as much, the thing about lost lieutenant is that it would make the Icadrons and the Dr. Worm and Bit and Kiss irregular as well. So it does actually set me back a little bit. So I didn't really want to lose lieutenant. Especially since it was quite close to where the Hunzgut was with the light grenade launcher too. Now, everybody has this embarrassing moment come up in games of infiNity. It happens to the best of us, happens to the worst of us. My opponent realizing that he forgot to deploy his 2 Naphatons on the table at the start of the game. In a tournament, that's very, very awkward, but in a casual game, you know, we just forgive and forget, and he puts his Naphatons in the back of the board somewhere. There's no way that I would have been able to shoot at them anyway. I mean, they were in positions where, you know, the OzNat wouldn't have had an opportunity to get there, I assure you. So we're just moving on. Here are their locations. So, right. So what he's got now is he's got a situation where Ghazi Motiwas are moving towards the Hungaries. And I've got an isolated Preta standing out over there who can actually dodge their attacks. And he does dodge most of them. He does take a hit with one of the pistols and goes dogged. But he will die at the end of the turn. But he's going to be able to continue dodging towards them every time somebody activates. And if he does get too close, then he might be able to throw a bit of a spanner in the works with his chain rifle, right? So that's what they're doing right now. You can see he's wounded down there, and the Ghazi just having to move closer to him. This Ghazi moves close enough to get hit by his chain rifle, apparently, but she tanks the armor safe, so that was kind of annoying. Over here, the Ghazi Motiwa, right next to this Gaki, so she's just going to go straight in there, goes into close combat, and I believe the Gaki is able to win the... No, what happens here is the Gaki completely fails to kill the Ghazi. There's an OzNat nearby, completely fails to kill the Ghazi. But the Ghazi is visible by the Suryat on top of the big tower in the middle of the table. So, you know, heavy infantry link team, couple of rockets hit her face and she's destroyed. So no dice there. And one more Ghazi over here, again going up against the might of the link team. That's them in the distance. So you've got, there's an HMG there and a Suryat heavy rocket launcher there. So they're both firing at him. And this time, Ghazi absolutely obliterated as we would expect it to be, right? There you go, there's the firepower. That's where it's situated. Having said that though, we do have you know, plenty more where that came from. So Ghazi's now trying to lay down smoke grenades so that Tariq Mansouri can move out and get into position to shoot with his Spitfire in the correct range band and make the most of Fatality Lever 2. So Ghazi's now attempted to do that. We did have a failed roll at one point, you know, causing the Predator to dodge ever so closer to that corner of the table, but there it is there. But eventually the Ghazis do get the smoke templates down, and that's going to allow models to move in and you know, put smokes in the places they need them to be. So then our data tracker, Tariq Mansouri, moves through very slowly and gets to this point here. Now, human errors sometimes are made, and my opponent realizes, unfortunately, that as Tariq moves the cloud, moves to outside of the cloud template here, he's trying to get to the cover of the box, but he misjudged it ever so slightly, and there was like a millimeter, like a tiny increment, where there's a little bit of a daylight gap between, you know, his base and the smoke cloud and his base and the dumpster on the other side. So if Tariq wants to engage the Suryat with heavy rocket launcher, he's got to do that without cover, and you can sort of see up here, there's the Suryat there about to pound him with some rockets. So Tariq would be hitting on 13s on 4 dice, but, you know, missile launcher, sorry, rocket launcher, even though it's at normal range within 16, it's you know, ballistic skill 16. So, you know, what do? Tariq, 13s on 4 dice, and you're critting on 1s and 13s. The Suryat firing on 16s with 2 dice generally can take a fair bit of punishment. Now, I would bring up a dice calculator for you guys, but I don't know where the dice calculator actually accounts for fatality level 2. I'm just going to quickly be looking at it while I'm talking, but I'm pretty sure that you can't really work that out. So I'm just going to go have a look at it. After a lot of thinking about what to do, our Haqqislam friend here decides to just spend a little bit of time bringing on his Hakim on the side of the table and shooting at the Osnat, right, and just taking care of her before coming back to Tariq and deciding what to do. So he does actually get the Osnat. That means I'm going to miss out on a point for having my data tracker alive, but we all know that wasn't really going to be happening anyway. Alright, so I'm just having a look. Tariq Mansouri is actually light infantry, and he's got his Spitfire here, and the range band is going to be good. I may as well just bring this around here, right? So let's just take a look at it. May as well have a look. So he's not going to have cover, and he's at the right range band, whereas for... Let's just pretend we're playing... well, we'll pick Morats because you can take a Suryat in a link team even without the new update. Suryats. So he's got a heavy rocket launcher, which is going to use hit mode since you're not up against cover. The range band is at 0s, but he's in a 5-man link team. He does have cover. So if we roll the dice, I think it's just going to have the modifiers, right? Oh, it does have it. Weapon also crits on a 1. Okay, so they have incorporated it. That's really cool. Okay. So, yeah, this is actually looking pretty good for Tariq. 44.87 chance of inflicting 1 or more wound. See, here's the difficult part. 44.87% chance of him just wounding the Suryat. The Suryat can then maybe pass the religious check and go unconscious, or force Tariq to take another risk. Only a 13% chance of him doing the 2 wounds outright. So what can quite often happen is the Suryat player can go, right, I'm going to say, I'm going to engage in this one and shoot back, and you're going to do 1 wound on me at most, and then the second time you fire at me again, it's very likely you'll only do 1 wound, right? And then he's just unconscious. You've got Dr. Worm's helper bot nearby to revive him. Or the 28% chance that comes up, neither player succeeds. Well, that's fantastic for Morats because Tariq's having to spend all those orders. Having said that, though, 26.57% chance you just shut Tariq down. 17% chance that you do 2 or more wounds on him. I don't know whether these stats are taking into account the fact that the heavy rocket launcher is going to cause you to burn to the ground. Like, if you do suffer 1 wound, you've got to take another armor save, and I'm not actually sure if these stats actually account for that at all. So that's the other problem. If Tariq dies, it's just about game over, because not only has the Haqqislam player missed out on that point for having the data tracker alive, they've missed out on a potential 3 points for hitting the end zone at the finish line, and also there's a big swing of army points lost because there's another 2 points at the end of the game for having more army point kills. So what actually happens in the game here is my opponent does decide to risk it, takes Tariq behind cover. We get a single face-to-face roll with Tariq not enjoying cover, and the Suryat wins and inflicts 1 wound on him. So he's wounded, and unfortunately for him, not too much more he can do there, except take more risks. So Tariq goes for it again. He's shooting back at the Suryat, this time with cover. So now it'll be 13s on 4 dice versus 13s on 2 dice. And Tariq does manage to wound the Suryat. The Suryat is able to just drop back behind cover after passing the religious check, and we can continue. So really having forced him to not really get much done there, and this is thanks to the power of the Suryat and the link team, right? So really good that he's there. As you guys can appreciate, this is a pretty big deal now for Morats being able to do this. I'll speak more about this when the book comes out and we've got all the information, the profiles. I'll give you a big full breakdown or rundown about the new changes. But it's a pretty big deal for Morats. Okay, so there's their position. After the Suryat goes prone, Tariq tries to move up here and fire at the HMG. And this is a much better situation for Tariq because his range span's good and the Vanguard's not as powerful as the Suryat in terms of ballistic skill. So he's able to make him go unconscious as well, and then just spends the rest of his orders running away. And running away is the right thing to do, because if he leaves Tariq there, well, it's just very easy for me to revive my Morat HMG with the Dr. Worm, walk over there with the Crackot Renegade and just blast him with chest mines, or the Link team climbs down from the building and kills him. And then there's nothing really left in the Haqqislam army that can contend with, you know, that level of firepower. There's just nothing they can really do. So Tariq running away back to this position. I asked him if he wanted to go prone behind these boxes. He decided not to because he wants to get the AROs off, but I feel like that's going to be a bit of a mistake. Okay, so the Hakim also moving, I believe, to a better location to... No, this is Morat's turn 2 now. So there's a Gaki actually moving out impetuously, but the shock ammunition is able to blow him up with the Hakim. So this Gaki's trying to get in range to explode on the Jambazam, but that doesn't work out. He is removed. Okay, the other Gaki moving over here and is out of range of the Hakim on the right-hand side of the corner. So the Hakim is actually going to dodge into cover because he's worried that the Link team is going to reposition and get a line of sight from the building up here down to here to kill him. So the Gaki's hanging out here perfectly fine. Note that there is a perfectly good panoply here, and there's no reason why Gakis can't raid panoplies, so we'll see a bit more about that soon. So they're both over here in position to, you know, loot some goodies. Alright, so Dr. Worm now activating his little helper bot, which is able to climb over the prone body of Tariq Anyat and go up there and fix up our HMG. That is successful, and we now have an intact Link team with a command token spent to get them back online. The rocket launcher staying prone as it moves down here, and back down this side. Before we carry on here, I've missed a very important moment in the game. Let me just scroll back a bit. As our opponent here was spending a lot of time deciding what to do with Tariq, and as the rocket launcher was made to go prone, he thought about moving out with his impersonator Al-Jabal. So he thought about moving out through here and eventually getting a smoke grenade here and killing the Vanguard in close combat with the viral close combat weapon. The thing is, there's also a Dacharatsi down on ground level, which has line of sight to this. So as Al-Jabal moves out, I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to discover with the Dacharatsi, and I'm going to just delay with the heavy rocket launcher. So he's like, oh, well, okay, I'll just keep moving then, because that's going to allow me to get closer. Then I pointed out, hey, look, impersonation has a different effect when you're up against an alien army, like a non-human faction. So once you get discovered, and remember, there's going to be no -6 penalty to discover in this case, because you're at the lower level impersonation. And once you get discovered, you're just there sitting out in the walkway, and the heavy rocket launcher and Link team has line of sight to you. So I graciously allowed my opponent just to take that back, even though it rolled the dice. I said, look, you know, you'd been blindsided by that. We'd both forgotten for a bit there. And he moved his model back and ended up not spending the orders on Al-Jabal here. So note that the Morats were in a much better position to defend against Al-Jabal because of that than we would have thought. And hey, sometimes playing combined armies is a really good thing because, you know, these impersonators have much less effect on you, which is really, really good. Back to the story. So these Morats now moving down from the building, partly to avoid Al-Jabal, but also partly to get into a location where they can really crush Tariq. Now, as these guys are moving down the staircase in the Link team, the rocket launcher stands up and is the Link leader. And from this position at the top of the building, he's able to lob a rocket down at this Ghazi over here and also clip one of the Ghulams with his template. So that does a fair bit of damage. Then the whole group, having moved all the way down the building, get into a position where they can take up, take up arms on the other building. So they deployed in this one over here, this one, and they've moved to this side here where we can move the HMG up to the corner. He's going to come around the side here and blow Tariq away, and the heavy rocket launcher is going to be able to, set up an arrow position through the middle of the table there, and everybody else is going to hang out around the side. Probably getting nuked by a grenade launcher from Hunsakut, but that's a problem for another day. Morats are very short-sighted, you see. So here he comes with the HMG. There's a flash pulse bot retaliating with a flash pulse, but Tariq's right there getting blasted by a 5-burst HMG in a Link team, so he's not going to last very long, and he in fact does not. Unfortunately, the flash pulse does end up blinding the Morat. Quite a good photo, this, actually. I quite like the lighting on the guns and so forth. Very distracted by my own handiwork. But what this means is now the HMG is going to swap spaces with the rocket launcher. The HMG moving down the stairs while the rocket launcher moving up the stairs. And the rocket launcher is now going to be able to move around and take advantage of their wonderful position. Here you see it. So we're going to send a rocket down onto the Gazimutewa and the Nafutun here. And another rocket over to the flashball spot here. And hopefully obliterate them. And what ends up happening is that the Gazimutewa, I believe, gets a crit smoke, but the flashball spot and the Nafutun are both destroyed. Now, because he's just lacking so much firepower here, it's fine to just leave the heavy rocket launcher just sitting there, even though he's not going to get cover from certain angles, just because he's going to be able to see more stuff from that point. And yeah, you just want him to be able to get the shots off, and he's quite tough. He's going to be able to withstand any pistols or rifles from that range. So we have some Gakis, and they are indeed going to be going for the consoles. It's really hilarious to bring in a model with no gun whatsoever and then start picking stuff up. Hilariously, the Gaki ended up picking up some smoke grenades, which actually makes them quite a lot more effective, and they are physical 14, so a lot better at using smoke grenades than they would be with an HMG, for example. I was kind of hoping for an HMG, that would have been funny. We've got a Crackot going out here for the other console on the opposite side of the table, picking up a multi-sniper rifle. So we've got our impetuous sniper on this side, prone behind the panoply there. But this is going to make it harder and harder for our opponent to win because we're ahead on the panoplies as well. Okay, so Gazimutewa now moving further down, I believe able to stay at a line of sight of the rocket launcher, or maybe not. No, once she gets to this point, she's definitely going to get blasted, so not going to survive for too long. We've also got the Dacharatse nearby as well, plapping away with the pistol as she comes through. There is an HMG here to cover this angle through there, but nothing else is going to be happening. What we're really seeing is the Hunsagut moving forward, and she's moving far enough forward to get to a point where she can just land a big, grenade on these guys. While she was moving across the walkway, she was encountering this Dacharatse here. I forgot to mention that, but the Dacharatse not able to kill her, and the Hunsagut eventually dropping him with their long-range rifle. Okay, so grenade in position. Grenades go down, and we do have a grenade land at one point, but it only manages to kill the Morat hacker. Doesn't manage to get Tariq or the designated target or the Morat fort observer, because everybody else either passes a dodge check or passes an armor save. So a bit lucky there, but not every day you see the four-man pie plate go down, right? So there it is. Over this side, Gaki defending himself with a smoke grenade against the Hakim. Now that he's got smoke grenades, quite funny. And a bit and kiss. This is already Morat's turn 3 now, because Haqqislam could barely do anything. So Morat's moving out. Well, when I say Haqqislam could barely do anything, most of the orders were just pumped into the speculative fire shots from the Hunsagut, and she failed most of them. So Bit and Kiss now moving up the battlefield, getting to a spot where they can both come around here, and Bit can fire at the Hakim, and the adhesive launcher from Kiss can fire at him as well, managing to do a little bit of damage to him, I believe, if I recall correctly, but I can't really remember that well. And Link Team now just repositioning a bit more to block off lines of sight. Actually, I decided to pull that move back and actually move up here with the beautiful Suryat with his heavy rocket launcher, because he's got a light shotgun, and in a four-man link, now that the hacker's dead, the four-man link, the Hunsagut's going to be no trouble, so light shotgun, getting rid of her, wiping the walkway clean, and then just moving into a really brutal aggressive position to guard the center of the table, so then sending my lieutenant up to the middle just to claim the extra bonus points. And in my opponent's final turn, he's got a Bareed sitting out there, so the Bareed with his rifle moving in to try and kill the Morat. Doesn't do it in the first round, and then as he moves through here as well, Morat just continuing to tank the armor saves and hold strong. So all orders spent. The end of the game is a whopping victory to Morats by a margin of 8 objective points to 0. There were 2 that I missed out on. I didn't keep my data tracker alive, and I forget what the other one was. I didn't reach the end zone side of his table with my data tracker, which I could have done if I'd been smarter, but I didn't. So, finish line, really fun mission, really good matchup here. I feel like the Haqqislam list that I just beat here was a very strong list, but The big thing is that my opponent really should have gone first, because when you're going first with Al Jabal, and when you're going first with Tariq and the 3 Daylamis, you're going to inflict so much damage and blow up Gakis and all sorts, so I feel like it would have been a much different game if that had been the case. Still, Morat's looking a lot better now that they can take a Suryat heavy rocket launcher in their Vanguard team, so I'll definitely be keen to play some more Morats. It's going to be pretty sad if Bit and Kiss are gone, but I did also hear a rumor that maybe the Sogarat profile will be updated so that the Sogarat can't go on link teams, but it does get Fatality level 2, which would mean that you probably will be wanting to run it. Well, that's it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you again soon.